Welcome to the Old World Fanatics, your Warhammer fantasy podcast to quench your hobby thirst for all things the Old World. I'm one of your hosts, Gomo, and I'm back again, as usual, with Andrew and Josh. How's everyone today?
Yep. Pretty good. How are you feeling, Gomo? You managing okay?
A little tired today, only just because so this pod might be out. I'm not sure. We'll probably be out a day later because we got a special guest on today from WA, Mitch Byrne, and I'm juggling a few. It's cool. I've actually got a number of podcast episodes on the plan here. We've got Castle Assault coming out. We've got a couple of another guy wants to come on.
Busy schedule.
We've got a good So I'm trying to work it out, and so I was either going to put Mitch friend. Yeah. So Mitch has just run, as far as I know, the only team tournament in Australia, at least for Old World, but probably one of the largest in the world at the moment, technically. So I wanted to get him on, but he couldn't come on our usual recording day. So we pushed back a day, and then that obviously clashes with some early mornings for me. So, but it's all cool. That is done and dusted, and you'll hear that.
Look at what Gomo's doing for the channel. Hey, look at what he's doing. See, guys, Gomo. Blood, sweat, and tears.
Don't know about that. No, but it's good. There's just so much. I don't know if it was the dwarf release, but it seems like it's just everything's just like, there's so many topics to talk about. So we are trying to squeeze stuff in and put extra shows out when we can on YouTube. So, but anyway, so that's going to be our main topic, really, catching up with Mitch. I hadn't met him before. It's really cool. But outside of that, our usual, news and hobbies and all that sort of stuff. So have you guys got anything you wanted to touch base on right now, or should I just get into our shout-outs before we hit the news?
Go for it.
Yeah, shout away.
Cool. Well, our shout-outs are our Patreons, and we've got a new structure, as we sort of hinted with last week.
What was the structure again?
I'll let you do it, but well, look, we're only shouting out. I'll cover a few things on this. But anyway, before we start, we're giving out shout-outs to our newest patrons. So they're the ones who've joined in the current month. We've currently got 6 of them, which is really cool. We've got Liam, Tommy Coblin, Joseph Justice, Jay McBride, Flatworld's Edge, and Sexy, but it's Jim. They all joined in July. It's going to be interesting next week. It'll be August, so I don't know if I'll just have.
Wouldn't it be a rolling 4-week thing, isn't it?
Who knows?
We have different tiers now as well, right? Like, does that also change the shout out?
It sort of. I'll talk. I can touch base on that. Yeah, but we do have one of the other shout outs we do is if you do anything.
I should play the Old World. So complicated.
If you share stuff as a Patreon to our Discord channel and stuff, or answer questions for us, we'll bring them up. So we do have our funny Patreon that always changes his name, so we got to call him out, and he's currently Diddy Shartenfart. That's his name. So he's one of our OGs. Diddy Shartenfart's a question. And I know what that picture is. I'm pretty sure that is
that's a very
messed up pants.
Yeah.
That's so for those who don't follow us, that's one of our awesome patrons who likes to give us changed names.
It's definitely one of the more juvenile ones he's come up with in the last few weeks.
But look, Josh alluded to it. We do have a number of new tiers that you can consider if you did want to support the show. But if you do, it's just over at patreon.com/oldworldfanatics, and these awesome patrons do help us keep pushing out Old World Fanatics, the podcast and the YouTube week in, week out. So head over there. There's a few tiers now to consider. Just in terms of answering that, Josh, there's the basic ones they just give you support for the show, but the more sort of the bigger ones will get you more access to Discord or giving us input to our shows and the schedule, or even some of the bonus stuff we do send out. So there's some slightly more variation with what you get for your support. Obviously, we appreciate all of it, even if it's just the free subscriptions. Look, and if you don't want to join the Patreon, jump over to YouTube though. We really do like a hit. A like, subscribe, and alert buttons, because it helps us get pushed out there. So really appreciate that. And I do know that most return viewers that are not subscribers. So obviously people out there watching us on YouTube and still not hitting that button. So bloody hit it. But anyway, that's basically the Patreon sort of shout out. What we did start with that though is some of them, the ones that are in our private Discord, which you get on the second and third tiers, or private channel on our Discord, I should say, is a Patreon questions that you can throw out, and we actually got 2. So we got Miss Junk asked, what's a better strategy for someone starting out, focusing on one army, or get better at it, and then before you try other armies, or should you try different armies to find out what works best for you. So as far as I know from Miss Junk, they haven't played. I don't know if they've even played a game. They've signed up to a tournament or something.
Yeah, I think
that's a pretty big question, isn't it? Like,
mainly hobby. Yeah, from what they were saying.
Yeah.
They've just been doing lots of buying miniatures and hobby.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can give it a quick. I don't know. I feel like it's always good to try. I don't know. I think it's an expensive hobby, so you probably are going to throw yourself into one of them. But I don't think there's anything wrong with trying different armies, especially on digitally or with mates, just to try and learn what's better. But to me, that feels like a question we could turn into a podcast show, which would probably be even a better idea.
Yeah,
it's a pretty big.
It's quite a.
That is.
Yeah. It's a massive topic.
Yeah,
that is.
And so Miss Jug, I really appreciate it, but I reckon unless you guys have anything, I think we can turn that into a topic.
Yeah, I mean, off the cuff, you sort of want to set a goal for yourself, and usually that's at least trying to get a little army together. That's in 5 seconds. That's how I'd answer it. But I think we absolutely could expand on that. I agree.
But you're disciplined, Josh. Somebody like me who's undisciplined,
ADD,
with addictive personality.
Like
I'll order one thing from one army, and then I'll just like, oh, butterfly, and then start getting this and getting that. Okay, I can't help myself.
We're going down the tunnel now.
We'll hit this later.
Let's we'll do that I think that's a really good topic to sort of branch out with. So we might do that. So thanks for that question, but I think it's also a suggestion. And then Sean, who people do know as he comes in some faction reviews for us. It's a bit of a fun one. Monster Slayer, fun casino mechanic, or a feels bad for both players that doesn't belong in a strategy game. So I guess it's the whole roll to 6 and your 600 point dragon just died. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Should Monster Slayer be in there or not?
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's a game of dice. It's a game of dice.
I guess
the whole game's a casino mechanic, right?
Yeah. There's one way to totally be immune to Monster Slayer, though.
What?
You just don't bring a dragon, and then you don't care about it. So, there is that option. So
there is.
I thought you were going to talk about that armor thing you had that makes them re-roll your wound rolls or something, but no. I was like, no, just don't bring a dragon.
Just don't bring a dragon.
Or a behemoth, I should say.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. Oh, actually, it's all monsters, so it's the monster creatures too. But anyway, cool. Thanks for those quick questions. And the other patrons, definitely, Sunday night, I think a reminder goes around to give us some show questions, and we'll see what comes up next. So, news, guys. We'll try to smash through some of this. Did you guys see the Wave 2 dwarf thing hit? And I didn't bring that up. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw them.
It was a bloody Facebook link on my thing here, and I'm not in the Facebook on the browser that I've got open. I'm not on Facebook, so that's not going to work because it's not an actual article, is it? On
no, it wasn't like a community.
Yeah, I just saw the bunch of all the pictures.
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah, just some miners, gyros,
miners.
cannon.
Yeah.
So it's all this. It's so funny. It was the stuff that everyone was sort of going, this isn't out yet. This isn't in the wave, and that's when I realized it was only one wave. It was definitely wave 1 last week, whenever it was. But then I'm like, they've all just come back now. So they pretty much dumped it so quick. So I'm just I'm talking here. You guys should vamp. Trying to bring up my bloody screen here to share the pic from Facebook.
I was hoping the gyros come as a 2-for-1. I didn't see.
Oh, it is on there, isn't it?
Well, it's got a picture of 2. Does it
picture
say
of 2 of them next to each other?
The bomber and the gyrocopter.
It would imply that.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I think most of the time these photos have been pretty accurate in the past about if they're together, they're in the box together.
Finally got it up, guys. Sorry about that, especially if you're listening to us on audio. I was fiddling with some stuff. I didn't have that one ready. I thought it was a link to a community article, but it was Facebook, and I'm not logged into that browser. But anyway, here it is. Yeah, we've got the miners, 20 of them. So I'm guessing that's just like, it used to probably come in 10s.
This full command.
The old Dwarf King with the Oath Stone, which I guess needed. Again, he's the same sort of dude, isn't it? He was built into his base, wasn't he? On the plastic one?
Yeah, that's...
okay.
I wonder what they
Carrick 8 Peaks. What's his name? Oh, I've got him too.
But here, I'm pretty sure this is the dwarf. This is the gyro box. It's the chariots were the same thing, the orc chariots. So there'll be two in a box. What was that?
No, yeah. Well, it says gyrocopter, so yeah. Hopefully, it comes. Yeah, it's two. Yep.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd bet money that's a 2-box because it's the same as the other ones.
How much are you going to bet?
That is just going to sell. Hey, like people will just be buying those boxes. They won't keep on the shelf.
Oh yeah, they'll fly.
And then the missing plastic cannon organ gun set is out, which is cool. So I'm guessing these are all plastic. So they're all going to be like in shop, I guess. This is like a pretty big plastic range. And then the Dwarf Slayer, he was pretty late in 8th edition, so he would come back. And then
Dwarf Slayer / he came out as the White Dwarf, wasn't he as well?
I think so.
Did a crafty, not so crafty.
It was whenever it was in the era of let's put everything off a little rock, like that assassin guy they had, and one of the Dark Elf dudes or something. They're all jumping off a rock.
But they used the same model for the White Dwarf. So he was Dwarf Slayer, and then they changed him into the White Dwarf, and it was like, what? It's the same model. Anyway.
And we get the pony cart, which I guess they needed, which is funny because none of this pony cart has got nothing to do with the 2 carts they released in the Arcane Journal, really, which I kind of think's funny.
No. Wait.
It doesn't have...
What? That's a minus card, isn't it? I think.
Isn't it? Yeah, they call it a miners pit pony.
Yeah, I know, but where's like the explode? I would have expected. I know this model was never that, but like the actual
the charges,
the actual rules of the cart, you'd expect to have like all these barrels of explosions, like barrels of dynamite or something. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, the rules are completely irrelevant to it, aren't they? Funny.
Yeah, because like, what is this thing at the front? Does it? Oh, it's a drill. I don't know what it is. Anyway, yeah, cool. So at least some more plastics coming. And I don't know. Is that out this week then? I don't even know. Do you guys know? Is that like?
I'm not sure.
Or it was just something they throw up on the
Facebook
page?
It says on the Facebook page. It just says they're coming.
Yeah. Belagar Ironhammer.
Oh, it is. Okay, yeah.
His old mate.
Okay.
I can't believe I forgot that. I have to look it
We're
up.
so good with our lore, aren't we?
Had a few reds, so yeah.
Okay. We obviously got also the made to order Prince Ulther's Dragon Company coming out. So that's definitely coming out.
Oh yeah.
Which is this cool little cool with inverted commas. The little dwarves.
Classic.
I guess some
classic is how I describe it.
Yeah. I'm not sold on
it.
Look, if you're doing
was it 1987 or something? 1985.
Yeah.
That was the year I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are very old, but I
don't
mind.
It's money grab.
So that's the main guy there with his little axe and his hat off. And then little command set, and then obviously a couple of duplicates here, but yeah, they're just so tiny. Look, they're great for old hammer dudes. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it is what it is.
Are there any rules for these guys in the other edition? By the way.
Oh, in the other editions, I don't know.
Like.
Surely the older ones. Was
this the 3rd ed or something when it came out, or like?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. The first mention of him I thought was in Warhammer Roleplay or something, but I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
Wow, I think that's what one of the wikis said. But his rules are in the box. Is this the one where they're putting the rules for him in the box?
I think that's what I read.
That somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah, I read somewhere. Well, I'm not sure it was an official source, but yeah. I mean, where else are the rules going to come from?
Yeah. No, true.
I think I read it on Reddit, so to speak.
And these are made to order ones. So these are the ones that you'll pay and you'll get it the next day, like I did with my Wyvern, or you'll have to wait like 6 months. But yeah, here's what it is.
Can he be brought as?
It's really good.
But sorry, does it say in that he can be brought as mercenaries?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably, but I can't remember what I
think that's
read. I also read it this morning
with the rules.
Yeah, I think they're thinking it might be a mercenary sort of unit.
Yeah.
Oh,
it'd have to be in the Empire and stuff as well.
Speculation. Yeah,
surely.
Because didn't he go north and hang out with Kislev or something? I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what the stories are with that.
No, I don't know.
We have that. Yeah. And then the other thing that just dropped today, and I won't go into it too much, was the annual investor report just dropped just before, like probably a couple of hours before this show took off, which is kind of funny. I've been waiting for that. I might do a video on it a little bit.
You need to have like a business section in this podcast, by the way, because I never look at any of this stuff, but you're always on top of it.
Always just
old NASDAQ.
Trying to see what it's like in terms of the I don't know if there was any hints of, some what are the numbers versus, old world. Like they don't obviously break the product lines down, so you can't see that. But they definitely, there was some definite discussion around old world and that it, the project has grown, obviously because it had a really good launch. Obviously we know about that. Specifically they said something like was it? I've got it here actually. It said sales suggest that it is appealing to both new and veteran hobbyists alike. As with everything we do, we have grand plans for the years ahead, which is pretty cool. There's some other stuff to touch on, some of their, the movie stuff they're doing. I find it funny that, they're still not really critical about their manufacturing stuff in terms of the inventories. They are increasing some, but they are building the fourth factory. So hopefully into next year that sorts some stuff out. And they are actually moving this Sydney distribution to help some stuff in Sydney. So hopefully that, for Australia at least, speeds some things up. But who bloody knows? I'm not sure. But the interesting part I really picked out too was, they're just highlighting that they've got this plan. They have their plans done for a year and the current period goes to May 2025. And some quarters will be lower than others and don't judge them in quarters because they do annual plans. And it just says, it's very difficult to change our new release schedule live in any year. It is set in stone. So it's a good just reminder that I don't know, as successful as Old World is, and it is, we're probably not going to see anything different to what they were planning to do for 12 months anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's probably going to be to next year until something radically changes. There might be a new book or even that generals thing people are talking about, but it's not going to be like, oh shit, I've turned around now, I'm releasing Kislev. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just never going to happen. So
be realistic.
Anyway, cool. So that's a little bit of news for Old World coming out, but outside of that, before we jump over to talk to Mitch, let's just smash through some hobby. Who wants to go? Did you get any done, Andrew? Aren't you moving?
Oh, I got some done, all right. Kind of. So, because we're moving, I've gone through, I've had to box most of the stuff up. So I did a massive hobby clean out. And I'm such a hoarder because, there's just little bits and pieces you like. Do I need this? I might use this. I don't know. I had to fight myself as well. So I did actually put quite a bit in the bin. I had heaps of stuff on sprue bits. So I cut all those off, got rid of all the sprues. And I've been doing a bit of painting for Castle Assault. I'm trying to get everything at least base layered. I was trying to get everything painted,
you need these
but I don't
bats
think.
Too, don't you?
Yeah, I need the bats.
Sort that out.
So I'll try and get everything semi-painted. Anyway, on top of that, I registered for Moab. I don't know if this is hobby.
Ooh, that's right.
So
that's hobby.
so that's start of October. So I'll be heading back down to Sydney. That's Matt and he's co-TOing with somebody else, I believe. There was two people running it. And I also have there's an acquisition of some more Blood Knights because my 5 isn't cutting the mustard. I was actually going to hit you up for some 3D printed ones, but I've gone down another route for
either way.
Yeah. Oh well, I know you've got your 3D printing schedule is also set in stone, and you've got quite a few things you've got.
It's all good.
Get
it's been
up.
running. I'll tell you, it's been literally running day and night since
there you go.
But look, things can move around. I'm not like Games Workshop. I'm a bit more adaptable.
Oh, you are bit more flexible. I just got the Soulblight ones, and I'm going to move on probably my classic Forge World style. I don't know if they were Forge World, but the Finecast ones.
Yeah.
And that's me. That's me done.
Cool. Do you want me to get you the bats this week, or do you want me to undercoat them or anything, or do you want? I don't know. Like I can.
Oh, you can paint them
How
up.
stuck you get? I don't know.
No,
how
no,
to
no.
paint bats, but
I was I was just I'll come grab them. Hopefully this week.
Okay. Yeah, cool. No worries. Do you want to go, Josh?
Yeah, I can go. Mainly this week I've been trying to get painting done for Castle Salt as well.
Yes.
Oh my god, I've got quite a bit to do. I don't know if I'm going to get it all done. Mainly I've just been trying to get stuff. I think I can bring this up as well. Get like base coated as much as possible, and then maybe try to work on the heraldry after I go. So I did all the basing today.
That looks good.
Not all of it, but I got some.
Do I see a bunny?
Yeah, I haven't painted him yet. There's a little bunny there.
Yeah.
I've got to paint up the fences and that type of thing over there as well. And I've got to leave some branches on that tree behind it as well. There'll be a few more bunnies on there, by the way, by the time I'm done. I've got like 6 or 7 I'm going to put on there. It's a little diorama.
Enchanted woodland.
Thought the Green Knight's got done pretty.
Yeah, the Green Knight is mostly sort of base coated. Like the thing with him is I'd like to get some bit, like if I had all the time in the world, I'd be wanting to do some patterns on him and stuff as well. I don't know. We'll see how we go. Getting that kind of thing, and the fences I've got to paint those as well. My little scratch built fences. I've done them so that they all line up hopefully. With the magnets, on the sides of the bases, and then I can put the front guard to the side as well, and it still sort of is coherent, I guess. So that's mainly what I was doing in terms of painting, and I think the heraldry is probably the thing that takes the most time. Like I've done all the sort of the Pegasus wings and the leather and straps and stuff, and the armor. I just need to shade it a bit. But yeah, hopefully I can at least get the base coat done through next week, and then it'll at least be tabletop.
Cool.
I finalized the campaign docs. So that's all pretty much done. And I'm just waiting for House of War to confirm dates. Because I'm hoping to start it the second last Sunday of September. The campaign locally, because we did the last slow grow this week as well. It was all wrapped up, but I think I'll go through the game because I did actually play a game this week. I'll go through the game a bit, maybe next week, because it'll be a long night tonight otherwise. But yeah, it was a final slow grow, which was sort of it was almost sad slightly, but then the fact that
did you end up getting pictures of like all the armies and stuff then, or like how did that?
Yeah, well, we got pictures on the day of games.
Of just the battles. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, during the battle. We didn't line them up as such.
Okay. Yeah. Not that I probably don't need to, but yeah. Just wondering.
But there was definitely armies that only came into being because of the slow grow. Apparently. So, it achieved its goal in that regard. But the good thing is we have an ongoing thing. Like we have going to a campaign, so it's not all over, which is nice.
Yeah. That's the beginning.
But I do have a tale to tell about 3D printing.
Go for it. Because that's in my hobby probably too. So
having some real fucking problems with my printer, guys.
That's going on a YouTube short.
It's ridiculous. Probably for the last 3 weeks, I've been getting so many fails off it.
Oh no.
Probably like it was like 1 in 3, and then half of them I've leveled it multiple times. I ended up changing the FEP 2 days ago because I failed like 3 ones in a row. I was like, what the hell is going on? So I changed the FEP, then I got 2 prints out of it, and then I got another fail. The fail is just nothing adheres to the build plate. It just sticks on the FEP, and then I don't get anything. It's so annoying. And it looks like I think there's a problem with my printer now. Because what seems to be happening is the build plate goes down, and then how with the Saturn it probably does this too. When it starts printing, it goes down, goes up against the FEP, raises up slightly, and then gently goes back down onto the FEP before the print starts.
Yeah.
So I think it's having a problem with that last bit of going back down again. Like it seems to go down the step and then it raises
it's almost
up.
like the Z is wrong somehow. Like it's not getting its right zeroing, is it? Or
yeah, well, I think that's what's I think that's a problem. But I've reset it like multiple. Like I've re-leveled the plate and reset the zero repeatedly, basically. Like it's the same procedure I've been doing for years. And like the last one was like this is the moment when I gave up because I was like, today I had another fail. And then I'd watched it do that where it come up again, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I got it out, I basically I put it up against a piece of paper rather than having the vat in there once I cleaned all the resin. And it did normally. I ran a print. I didn't run a print, but I tested it, and I went down, hit the paper, rose up, hit the paper again, started exposing. I was like, okay, well, that works. So I emptied the vat,
and you can see the screen is good. Like, is the screen?
Yeah, the screen works. Yeah. And then I put the vat in without any resin. Did the same thing. Yep, it works. Went up, down, hit the FEP, started exposing. I was like, great, okay, let's put the resin in and do it again. And then it didn't work. It went down and then up again. I'm like, I don't know why. What the hell? And that was the moment that I decided to order a Saturn IV Ultra. So I'm like, I am sick of this. I am so sick of this.
He's getting the Ultra. Well, you're going to have to tell us stories of this because I have heard interesting things with the Ultra as well because it has a slightly different. Its vat actually moves rather than the vat moves to pull off. That's not just the
plate.
And I didn't. Mine doesn't do that. Mine's like yours. So it will be interesting. And then, but some people have had some issues. But I think maybe it's because it's just different. They're not used to what it does. But
they're
it's interesting to see how you find it.
I'm interested to see how it works. Yeah. So I didn't realize it wasn't actually out yet. I thought it was already out, and then I looked up. I was like, it doesn't come out till like the 20th of August or something.
So there you go. That's why I didn't realize it wasn't out either. But
you still would have been waiting. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I made the right call then.
Pre-order
I think I made the right call. I actually make a call about that a bit because I was like, late August. I've got a lot of stuff I want to print before mid-September. That'd be funny. That'd be funny. Yeah, you can return the favor. That'd be great.
Come on.
Because mainly I've been trying to push through more tiles. I mean, printing a few other little things. I printed. I'll show you this actually. Do I have it on here? Oh yes, I'll put this up again. This is the other thing I printed the other week.
Wow, cool.
Oh, that is cool.
I found the OG Forest Dragon scan.
Yeah, that doesn't look any different to the one I got off Andrew.
Yeah,
which wasn't a print, but yeah. Wow, that's cool.
This was the prize for the guy that won the Slow Grow. He was, because he's a Wood Elf player, so I made it for him, and he's like, oh man, I never had a dragon before, man, this is so cool.
Yeah,
he was
so hard to get.
Quite excited. Cool. But yeah, so I've been printing that kind of thing, but then I'm just printing off tiles because I'm realizing I need a lot more tiles.
Yeah. What resin are you using there? Is that just different? Is that still the same? What's it called? Syrah? What's it called? Syrah.
Yeah.
I think Syrah Tech, but just the color. It's just clear and white.
Fast. Oh, that I use for that. Yeah, it's a mixture of fast, grey, and tenacious.
Yeah, and is that the clear tenacious or the yellowy?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, the clear sort of
yellow. Really clear. Yeah. The best color I had was for some reason the first batch of tenacious I got was like a different grey, not black, because every time I've seen it, it's either black or clear, but there is a grey, and I got a grey. But then the first fast I got was a light grey, and when you mixed them in that rate, 1 to 10, 2 to 5 type ratio. I reckon it makes the best looking color. Like it looks like the Games Workshop plastic. Whereas when you get the real dark, like grey, they look darker. Do you know what I mean? There's something about when I look at the print, where I want it to look like the plastic. So sometimes I even choose the color, even though it's got nothing to do with it.
That's hilarious.
I want to pick this resin and that to try and get the color close to it.
That's really funny.
Plastic plastic crack, the grey.
So there's no practical sort of rationality behind that
It's going
whatsoever.
to get coated totally. It's going to get totally covered in paint.
Yeah.
It's just
I would argue the benefit of the clear one is that it's easier to cure a bit deeper because it's a little bit more translucent. Even if it's only a small portion of the print, you are going to get a bit more light penetration.
Does that mean you can go slightly quicker on the exposure time, or you wouldn't do that? That's playing with.
No, I'm more thinking about post curing afterwards, because the whole thing is then a piece, so you still got to penetrate into the body of the thing.
Yeah. Cool. Oh man, that's gonna be. Hopefully it comes sooner than they think, and you get. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, hopefully it comes on time. Because I am busy. Around late August, we're going away a couple of times. I got Castle Assault anyway, and then we're going away for a week after that anyway. So I probably won't have that much time to do much hobby. In the intervening period. And,
I guess.
And for the next 2 weeks, I need to focus on Castle Assault anyway.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me know about those tiles because if you need some printed, they're pretty quick, I'd imagine, to print, aren't they? Because just the little.
I'm so excited. I was putting them out. I was laying them out on the Saturn IV board in Chitu box. I'm like, I can fit 16 tiles rather than just 9.
I was just saying because you're coming up to Castle, so if you needed some printed, I could have them there.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, we can work that out.
No, should be okay.
Cool.
Okay. We'll see.
Was that the main? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
So
we'll cover your games and your End of Slow Grow next week because we've got Mitch coming on soon. I did a little bit. I am so close to finishing these dudes, my skeleton archers and stuff. They just need highlights and a little bit more base work done. So I finally, I think I said to this in the message group, guys, I did batch paint these and I've never done that much before where it's like 40 figures, just doing whatever it is, the red bows, do all them. I wasn't going to. I was going to do in batches of 10 or 5 and stuff. And I went, I'll just see if I can do it. And I've actually been quite productive with it. It just goes through. It's almost meditative, and obviously their skeletons, so they're not that hard to paint either. But yeah, so they're almost done, which is cool. But what I have done, I didn't take pictures of all this. I have almost finished. I've got one more print of Galia Foot Knights for my mate, and I've printed him an entire bloody Bretonnian army of what he wanted, stuff pegs and stuff. So that's all cool. And then I've nearly done not all my dwarves, but I've done a bunch of dwarves. Oh, sorry, I did the first bits of scenery. These little palm tree dudes came out.
That's so cute.
They are a bit finicky to pull off the supports under all here, which is a pain in the ass.
I can imagine it's pretty fragile.
I just used my normal mix, but I was considering going heaps more tenacious on the leaves, and I might do that more with. You
don't want to overdo it though, because it does. After a certain point, the more tenacious you add, it actually gets so soft that it doesn't support its own weight very well. It can start to it sort of can droop spontaneously if you're in a suspended way. So I think extra tenacious will be good, but I wouldn't overdo it.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what I'll talk to you about that because I was thinking because they actually even say on some of these designs to use what's it called? ABS, whatever it's called. I don't know, a flexible resin.
ABS
again.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, ABS is fast anyway. Yeah, that's what fast is. But I think 20% tenacious will be okay, or maybe
it's
a
probably
little bit more
less than that. But but I've been cranking out the dwarves. So I've got I think it's basically 20 hammers, 20 longbeards. I did my first scenery dude, so that's hollowed out and holed and stuff. The guy at the back there. I just put him there. He actually. I didn't mean to do this, but he's actually 50 by 50, so he's a perfect
unit filler if you need him.
Yeah, perfect. Filler, actually. I didn't do him for that. I just wanted to see what he looked like. So because I had this download, it's probably got 6 different sort of dwarfish things. I should show you, Andrew. They've got one's a big axe, and they're just type things, but they're dwarfish type things. So Longreed's Ironbreakers, all the Iron Drakey dude. Oh, hang on, wrong way. 2 units of 20-something warriors, but then I printed extra great weapon guys for the front. So I can mix between them. And then I've got my Rangers already and Heroes and stuff. So now I just need to finish some Gyros because I've only got 2. I need to do a few more, and then some of the War Machines. And I think it's it's getting pretty close. I showed my mate. I went out to watch Deadpool. The guy the other Andrew that I'm like wanting to paint this up, and he was just. I showed him the pics, and he's just like, "What do you mean you print that?" Well, because he hasn't played Warhammer for years, so he didn't even know this stuff existed. I'm just like, it's insane, and he's just like, "What?" So I said, I'm painting this up and you are playing a game. So it's going to be funny.
Oh, that moment when you realise what 3D printing can do, man. Life changing.
Yeah, they're just so good. But so that's pretty much the hobby. The 3D stuff, I did have to change my FEP, my release film on Saturday. And that, it wasn't that I had to. I think I told you guys a few weeks back where I had that, definitely had a big divot. And then there was another one, and I don't even know what caused that one. I mean, obviously it was crap or whatever, but so I'd been printing anyway, going, fuck it, it didn't break, print it again. And I even set up my, I've got this, not a webcam, but like a home security, like a portable one that I leave, turn on when I go on holidays and stuff. So I put that out because I don't have the Ultra. I put that out. So it's funny. I actually can use my webcam through my phone just to look at the print to make sure it's not leaking or doing anything. So I've been doing it for 2 weeks.
You're doing DIY.
Because I just was a bit like, is this thing going to break? Is the screen going to break? With this big dent in it? And then I was like, nah. And then I decided, on Saturday, I'm just going to change it. And I did it, and it was all good. And then I realized I turned it on, and the first thing that came up was, a warning to change your FEP film because it had done 60,000 cycles. That's what the Ultra says. It should only do 60,000 before you change it. So it was just a fluke that I did it.
Right.
It's not a lot. You don't have to. You can just reset it. It's like a little odometer service thing on the screen. But it's just funny that I just randomly did it, and then it was actually technically the right time.
What's the community consensus with cycles?
Well, some guy he said if it's not wrecked, don't have to worry about it.
Just keep going until you get too many fails. Sometimes you're getting more fails than not, and that's why I changed the FEP, because I'm like, this FEP was maybe 3 or 4 months old only, and I was like, this is pretty good still. It's not very cloudy. There's no dints in it, but I changed it anyway because I had so many fails and I couldn't work out what's going on. That one would have had, easily 150 or 200,000. Well,
it's not 60K
by that point. Well, I think I've taken FEPs way longer than 60K.
Oh well, I was off the cuff calculating, if you're doing it at the layer 0.025 and printing an average size thing, it's 20 prints, you'd hit 60,000 probably. If you're doing 4,000 layers a go.
Yeah, if you're doing 4,000 layers,
Yeah, but it's the new toy. It's the new toy, Gomo. It's like, you get a new car and you're in there, you're vacuuming it every week. You're washing it, you're waxing it.
And it's
a year
it's
later,
easy to do. It's just annoying because how many effing screws you undo and do back up. But it went well. But the weird thing is, since Saturday, I did that, and I also cleaned out some resin and stuff, my because they're literally, my 2 first resin cleaning. They're only 1 liter. The little containers that I clean what are they called? The pickle jars. They're quite small, so they get dirty quicker. So I cycled them out just to have it all good. And anyway, so it's been printing non-stop pretty much till today. But just today, after I printed the Treb for my mate, and I've been really particular about checking with my plastic spatula, there's nothing on that new FEP. And then today, after I got his one out, I went, oh, no, there is something on there. It's stuck. Nothing's wrong with the print. Everything's fine. Everything was there. But some resin didn't fully, or has, I don't know, stuck to that FEP again. So I did a tray clean and pulled the whole bit of, the whole resin out. And you can see there was something, I don't know, just it's not even a big piece of resin. There was something there. So tomorrow I'll drain it and just check it, make sure it was all good. But I don't know what causes that, because nothing's actually wrong with the print. But there was something on the bottom of the...
There was something stuck on the film.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'll have to look at that.
Weird, because you would have thought if it was there before the print, it would have caused the print to fail.
Yeah,
usually.
Exactly. Oh, it wasn't there before the print because I checked it. Yeah. So anyway, I will do a little bit of investigation on that. But I don't know. I'm also... wondering if temp does play a part, because the resin does say it's got to be above. Is it 16 or 20? And like it drops down to, I don't know.
It does.
The
It does
drops down to
say
8,
that.
but the resin doesn't. Because the machine's got a temperature on it. It's always above that, I think, most of the time when I'm looking at it.
Does it have a thermometer in it?
Yeah, it tells you what it is.
I'm looking forward to this new technology.
Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to having a spout on the side of the vat.
Yeah.
Because in the Mars, when I pour resin out, it just goes all the way down the side of the paint,
and
it just
it's so easy to get on the screen on the other side. Yeah. And then onto your screen if you don't clean it off.
Yeah. I think that's partly why I'm going to blame how messy my my workspace is on that specific design flaw.
The drug lab.
Are you going to clean your workspace when you put the Ultra out there?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
I think I will go to the effort of actually cleaning it up properly.
Yeah, it's the new toy. Just give it. Just wait. Just wait, Gummo. Wait 12 months, you'll have your own drug lab.
You're right.
Going.
Look, there is a little bit of spattered resin on one of the the wash basin I noticed today, and it's stuck on there now. I'm like, fuck it, damn it. I must have missed it. And it's
slowly turning
Can't
into
get
a
it
drug
off.
lab.
I've tried to get it off. It's like cured. Probably now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so messy there that I don't even taking the hood off. I put my gloves on first because there's just so much like smeared resin around on the hood itself, on the outside of the hood. It's just everywhere. You gotta don full PPE before you even step into the room.
Into the room. Well, it's definitely done a lot for you. So
yeah. 3 years. It's done really well, really. Yeah.
My issue is I'm on like I don't know how many patrons now. The bunch I've signed up for just for a month to get their next batches just to see what they're like, and I'll cancel some. But there's a couple. There's a really good high off one and a chaos one and an ogre one, and I'm like, oh man, I'd love to have them printed, but there's no way. I don't know. Maybe I just keep printing, just keep boxes of armies.
Download them and keep them on your hard drive.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Well, that's the hobby. We should get over to talk to Mitch Byrne. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So, for the listeners, we're just going to jump over to chat to Mitch Byrne from Beyond Odyssey Games about his latest teams tournament he just did. So, we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back, guys. We have a very special guest here on Old World Fanatics. First-time guest and also first-time listener by the sound of it. Mitch Byrne from Beyond Odyssey Games and Hobbies in the great state of Western Australia, who just last weekend was the TO for the latest... I guess the biggest, is it? WA Warhammer, the Old World State Team Championship tournament. Just held. So, it's a bit of a mouthful. Mate, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Great. Feels fantastic after running the event like this. For the most part, I'm pretty sure everyone was quite happy in terms of some of the positive responses from people and the level of enjoyment that people were having at it. So it kind of just leaves you with a bit of a fuzzy feeling, right? If you're like, oh, awesome, everyone liked my event. That's great.
Must be a bit stressful, especially a team championship, like a team tournament.
It's been at least 12 years of running events, and it doesn't. You get more used to things and you see all of it, but it still doesn't make it kind of any less nerve-wracking in terms of making sure that you want to put on a good show. Because there's nothing worse than hearing then about things through the grapevine of packing foam terrain events and oh my god, they oversold this and there was no space for anyone to play, or you get the idea.
Everyone's rubbing bums with each other. Is that what you mean?
They're too hot, no aircon, no internet. TO didn't know what they were doing. Yeah.
I just, man, I reached out to you because obviously you put was it on Facebook, I believe you put the post about that it was going to, that it was happening. And I think we'd seen it, but I didn't realize, I guess the size of the scene. And I guess that's where I wanted to start a little bit. Well, I guess first let's talk about your background, how you even came to the point where you're running, tournaments, and especially for Old World, given that's so new. And then we can go on a little bit, I guess, about, why the hell did you do a team tournament first? Or maybe you didn't, maybe you ran others. But, just pretty keen, Mitch, to sort of learn about yourself a little bit and how you ended up running tournaments.
I'll try to keep it as brief as possible because it's a long period of time. So I sell Warhammer and Warhammer accessories, and have since I was 15, pretty much consistently. So I started working at Games Workshop at the age of 15. For about 12 years, I was with them, and through that, eventually managing the store. Late days of 8th edition fantasy, going into Age of Sigmar, all of it was running events either separately at various halls or like pubs or anywhere that I basically could. If I'm perfectly honest, at the time in WA in particular, it was me and maybe one other staff member that were interested in the event scene, competitive gaming, not in a necessarily a cutthroat way, but like in actually, I think there's a bit of a stigma that like all Games Workshop staff like either don't play or just paint or don't like the tournament scene. I totally understand where that comes from, but it wasn't the case while I was there, at least. Not all, at least. About just under 3 years ago, friends of mine approached me saying that they were opening up what would be the largest gaming store and play space in Perth. It's got a back room capacity to run up to a 100-player like tabletop event. Any more than that's probably a little uncomfortable. And whilst we don't actually run 100-player events, that's just how big the space is. We do everything from pretty much everything Games Workshop that you can think about to Star Wars Legion, X-Wing, Conquest. Anyone is welcome to play a tabletop game of their choice and or host events in the space. But at the end of the day, something that I've learned over that period of time is events get pumped by and communities get promoted by people that are passionate about it. Yeah. And I probably during the days of 8th edition, as like a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, attended pretty much every single 8th edition fantasy tournament that existed under the sun. Then it obviously went away. And when you're working for the company at the time, it was the dark days of... in terms of
you weren't able to go play 9.
We all lived through it, right? And
dark days of circular base.
when you're also then like part of the company as well at the time, there's nothing written down saying you can't play other tabletop games, but it's people drink the Kool-Aid, myself included. The inhibitor chip is out of the head now, so like again, having lived through that for such a long period of time and then seeing the other end of it, and now with the old world being what it is and being such a love letter to previous editions of fantasy that I started playing in 7th, so whilst I never properly played like events for 6th, it really does feel like it's been a long time since I've enjoyed playing tabletop as much as I have, and I've been playing tabletop constantly from the age of 10 to 29. For a while there, I was playing a lot of hyper-competitive 40K, so team events in particular, to kind of bring that full circle, was I started attending the 40K ATC almost every year from 2015 till 2021. I'm actually wearing my state team shirt at the moment for that, just for fun. 2021 was my last year of that so far. The shop itself has kind of become a hobby in its own right in terms of running events and trying to keep up with what went from being you run a Games Workshop store by yourself to you now have a team of 7 staff and a gaming hall with TCGs in it and every other tabletop.
Yeah, it's not just one main system. Probably Warhammer was probably running 40K and now it's everything.
It's for what it's worth that you guys might find interesting, because there's every store, staff member, owner, person that has any sort of insider knowledge, you'll hear the most random, bizarre stuff about Old World in particular, of people being like, oh my God, it's such a success. Oh my God, it's such a failure. Oh my God, it's something in between, which is just, again, people believing whatever they want to believe. But it is the second, I won't go into actual numbers, but it is the second highest selling tabletop game in my store currently. And I only have 4 armies to sell people, basically. So that's
interesting, because we alluded to we chatted about that briefly last week. Oh, did we? I can't remember if this was because I know Squarebase were talking about it, and did we end up talking about his comment, like Rob's comment about that it's the third grossing, like the third most popular game that Games Workshop.
You hear it thrown around.
Warhammer and Blood Bowl. Weren't we talking about that, or was it?
No, I don't remember
talking else
about that.
I can't remember.
I haven't heard that line before.
Yeah, okay. Well, it was on Squarebase, and so it's interesting to hear you say a similar, not exact same thing, but obviously it's been very popular for its first launch. Yeah,
it's just one store at the end of the day as well, and what it really comes back to is passion behind it and like a community behind it. Warhammer has always been that. Games Workshop products have always been that. If you expect to just order it in and it sit on the shelf and sell, absolutely do not touch it. It is poison. If you have staff that actually understand what will sell and what will make you money, and can have the motivation to push it. A friend of mine, I won't name the store and I won't name the friend, but there's a friend of mine apparently running what still works for Games Workshop. And at one point, his Warhammer store was selling more Necromunda than. This is just what I heard, so take it with a grain of salt. But the entirety of Spain as a region, just because he was passionate about Necromunda. That's what you can do if you push something hard enough, right?
Yeah, you're working in there and you're just like, that is not the strategy. I just finished, people probably at this point where it's this segment sliced into the show, they probably have heard me slightly touch on it, but their annual investor report came out. And so it was interesting to see. There wasn't anything new in it. It's fine, nothing wrong. But, obviously those strategies, that's not their strategies. Their strategies are to help grow community, but not in the sense of let's have big stores again. They're all still doing their small one-personers
which is then where we step in, right? Like we've got what is like essentially like a fully done up, has a Forge World section and everything, premium store around the corner from us. And I remember when they were opening that store, because it was about a year after we had opened, people were coming to me being like, are you worried? Are people going to go in and play games in the shopping center? And I'm like, that's not their business strategy anymore, guys. They don't want you in their stores. They're coming to us now going like, oh, you've got all this old world stuff in stock. None of the Warhammer stores have it in stock. And I'm like, because that's not a 40K starter set. It's not an Age of Sigmar starter set. They want to get little Timmy into their game so that they can play old world in like 20 years, in 15 years, in 10 years, in 5 years, in 1 year, however long it takes for them to get to the narrow. I think it was on like Chris Peach did on his little podcast show. Talking with X. The funnel that. And whilst that language was never used with me while I was at GDub, I was very aware of that as a concept. Like, how many Horus Heresy players do you know that don't play any other game other than Horus Heresy? Or if they do, they dabble in like one or two other things. I know plenty of Old World players that are just Old World players. I know plenty of Necromunda players that are just Necromunda players, because you work your way to what you actually want to do. And that's what you want to do, and you enjoy it, right? That's the best way I get in there.
So interesting.
Instead of the person that's just jumped into the hobby, let's say like someone in their mid-20s and they've got a bit of disposable income, jumps into the hobby. How many times do you see people do I'm going to do that army, and I'm going to do that army, and I'm going to do that army, and they build up their pile of shame? We've all done it, right? Like no one's immune to the influence of it. But I would have to guess you probably do it a little bit less now than you did.
I don't jump game systems. Right? I'll say I'm right. Like I'm firmly wedged right into the bottom of that funnel. And
that massively helps compared to trying to commit that dollar value to multiple game systems. And that's whether you 3D print models, buy legit Games Workshop, have other dark arts means of sourcing of images, whatever it is. But
So how did you get, I guess, we sort of segued it to there a little bit. So obviously you've got a background in playing as well as selling, and so you've been TOing. And I guess let's spin it back to just Old World specifically. How has the scene, how did it just take off from its launch? And how many of you run or seen tournaments run versus then eventually decide to run a team tournament? Because I guess what I'm interested in, there's tournaments popping up everywhere, but team tournaments are always kind of challenging. And then you've got the whole issue about, well, is it a 5 or 8 team or what is it? So how did you end up?
Niche tournament scene.
Yeah, how did you end up getting to where you did? Yeah,
it's kind of
And what was? Let's talk about the format because I haven't.
That's a great point. So for those unfamiliar with team tabletop, theoretically, because there's a bunch of different ways to do it, the probably most common version of it would have been what was the old ETC and now WTC, though I think, correct me if I'm wrong, ETC might still be going as there's like a divide a couple of years ago. It's a little messy. But
I only know it as ETC because by then Age died, I think, and then it became WTC.
Divide.
and there was unfortunately never an ATC fantasy. And there's still, like, even for things like iOS, as different as it is, and it's just completely different customer bases for the most part. There still is barely that for it's in Australia. It's essentially just been 40K, which I got very involved in from 2015 onwards. Conveniently, I remember the very first 40K ATC I went to was the launch of Age of Sigmar, like the same weekend as the launch of Age of Sigmar. So it was very much kind of like a new chapter at the time. And again, I was still working for the company, and that kind of that form of competitive 40K just kind of took over a lot of my hobby time and passion behind it. But the idea is anywhere between essentially 3 to 8 people usually. For this event, we did 4. Completely separate games, and you win or lose your round as a team. So a lot of the time I'll say team events to people that are a bit uninitiated, and they be like, oh, like doubles. Are we all on the same table? Is it one mega game? And you're like, no. Like, as fun as that can be, like it's just not functional as an event, realistically, not as a traditional tournament at least. We've all been back in like probably the days of 2008, went to a local games workshop for their mega fantasy Storm of Magic game or their big apocalypse game, and had a miserable time when you realize that you're only going to get through 2 turns. And you set up all your models and you're like, all right, I guess I'll go home. Anyway, the intent is that you win or lose as a team, and that it kind of is about as close as Warhammer gets to feeling like a sport or like a team sport. There's then a matchup process. And you could theoretically do it in lots of different ways. You could randomize it if you really wanted to, but a traditional matchup process will usually involve like a put up and counter system. It can be done in a ton of different ways, and I'll go through how we did it a little bit later. But the goal is that you can tailor armies to an extent to be able to fight various counters. You can take armies that are potentially very well rounded, that despite being well rounded in a singles environment, might do you well, might potentially bite you in the butt, and being super well rounded in this environment, like, might be better suited. Or it could be really, really niche, where you're like, I've made this army that's going to fight anything in the game as long as it doesn't have Mortis Engines and Banshees in it and Screams. Or are going to counter to that either way. And try to get that pairing where possible. The other thing about it in particular, and I've always kind of believed this with any competitive tabletop game with a differential, you still do differential scoring in whatever way you want to do say differential scoring, but it's not about winning every game. It's not about the guy at the end of it that's gone 20 zip 3 times, 4 times, and is I'm the champion of my team. If you little example, at the event in question, the highest ranked player's team came 3rd. Awesome to him. He's actually a mate of mine. Like, awesome.
Is that the Brett player? Did I see that?
But the Flying Circus.
I just saw something in 2020.
It was a Flying Circus Bretonian player, and their team came third in the final round. Which like is fine at the end of the day. You win and lose as a team though, and it's your
That's the thing,
job.
Because if you might be getting all the easier matchups, and the other people are just getting smashed. Like it's easier if you can match, I guess, pair better in order to to be more strategical.
And in fantasy, in old world,
I'm not saying that, but
it becomes because at the end of the day, whilst I was running the event as well, I didn't see every moment of every game, and it's not about judging people for like how they played by any means, because a lot of people were also just coming to this for the I get to play with my mates like around me and make like a fun team thing about it. Like it's some very casual players that will never play a competitive event ever will then do team events when they realize how fun they can actually just be, because you're just with your mates, and it's the camaraderie aspect of it, and it feels great. Win or lose, for the most part, it still feels pretty great. The coming full circle, kind of with that, it's you playing very cagey games, potentially going into pairings where you're like, this is not I'm not going to win this game, but I'm going to play for an 11-9 because I can blunt the spear, is potentially huge. Because if they're expecting that Bretonian list to get a 20, and you get 9 out of it, and they're like, what the hell? Like, that's not the score we were expecting. And then you do, when the differentials are added together, depending on how many players, depending on what you picked for your differential to be, you can do margins where it's, and for this we did, you had to score, every game was added like a 0-20 differential based on victory points. And then you had to get 44 points as a team of 4 to actually win the round. Again, we can talk about it more later, but the team that came second and third, they don't actually show up on Best Coast pairings with this. I need to go through and edit it. But based off how I wrote the players pack, the team in the 2 teams fighting for first and second in the final round got a 40-40 draw against each other. And they even if it was 41-39, they needed to score 44 to win. So the team that's then won is the team that's gotten 3 round wins rather than the team that's drawn in the final, had a slightly higher victory point differential total, but hasn't actually converted the round fully because they've basically drawn in the final. It's kind of like.
I was just going to say, is that some? I remember ETC having like I guess a round cap system as well, because they had 5 or 8 players, was it 80? It capped at 80 out of 100. Is that that's a different thing? But it's, I guess, slightly different. But but that's probably more, when you've got larger team sizes potentially, where you don't want someone to potentially run off with it because you've got such high scoring rounds,
And there's lots of pros and cons to doing teams of 4 as well. Like in the past, I've always tried for teams of 5 because you kind of want to try and incentivize. Draws aren't inherently a problem, but the biggest risk with a team of 4 is 20, got 20, got 20.
That's true.
Draw.
Numbers good there. How did I'm happy to jump straight into sort of more the tournament thing, unless you want to talk about more about the scene. But like with the pairings, like I'm quite interested to hear that. I've only played in a 5. Did I do in an 8? What did we do for Biv that time, guys? Was that a 5-person team tournament? Do you remember that?
I didn't go.
Might have been 9.
I didn't go either. I've never played a team.
I think it was a 5 one. So, but like, generally, like you were saying, you put one up, and then there's usually they also. I can't remember. Like, how did you explain like how it was
no problem.
Team one? I like that.
And it's really. I really want to highlight it that there is not a right or wrong way of doing it. They're just different. It depends on if you want to give it as even a curve as possible without being random. So there's still like a skill test to matching and pairing. Again, it matters more the bigger the team gets. When you like 40k ATC was 8-player teams. ETC WTC at the moment is 8-player teams. It starts getting really like. Like
end up with 2 coaches like doing the whole pairing.
I
wrote an algorithm once.
We'll get there, right? Like I want Old World at that point. So there's no reason why it can't be. But essentially it was all the lists are publicized a week beforehand, so everyone has the option to go through lists. There's no you get there and there's the faction and you have no idea what the faction that's actually going to be. Obviously, if you're taking it seriously, you're going to actually go through and have a look at every other team's lists. If you're taking it more casually, you might just look at the armies. You might have a quick look. You might, it's up to the people then at that point. One of the players in it had his wife make a Google Doc where people could then rank. Like all the peers could rank what they thought the best lists were and the weakest lists were as well. So I need to actually check out the results from that. But that was a little bit interesting in terms of
you meant to compare it back to their results as well to see how that
before the event was done, literally just
but when you
I'm the most scared of that.
Cool.
So for this, because of the 4, I did the old some old events used to have like a champion system where you would secretly nominate a champion that would be put aside. You then out of your remaining 3 players, each team at the same time puts one of them up, then reveals them. Then the 2 remaining players, usually this is best represented by like actual player cards or tokens or just something, will go to each team and secretly they will pick out of those 2 remaining players which one of their put-ups is playing. Then the remaining 2 players that aren't picked play each other, and then the champions are revealed and they play each other. So the whole goal with the champions theoretically is you either take a really, really skew list that absolutely like. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
And kick someone in the dick, or traditionally something that's potentially a little bit cagier or a little bit more well-rounded. So you're like, we're going to put a champion up, and their goal is to get 9 points, 10 points, 11 points, no matter what they get paired into. Obviously, that will. It's a little random because of the blind bid, but it just depends on how seriously people want to take it. And then the other thing with the initial put up is they also get the first put up gets the first table pick. Then the next put up gets the following table pick, and then the table pick after that, and then the champions play on whatever the remaining table has had before. And whilst I'll be honest to myself, the tables that I set up were slightly more based off aesthetic value rather than perfect competitive differences. My ideal world is aesthetic values of the tables, making them look really nice, but also making like, hey, here's a table with 4 forests on it, and then here's a table with none. And then here's a table with three or four hills on it, and here's a table with none. And here's a table with just big.
So there's some strategy picking the table then.
Yeah. Like there were no Wood Elf players at this event for some bizarre reason. Like they're all just hiding in the forest. But in my head, it's cool. You could theoretically like write a list that wants to take them very, very heavily with a table and be first put up. But then if you know that the other team's kind of going to do that, you can kind of counter your pairings to that a little bit as well. You're like, I know they're going to put up Wood Elves because they want it to be first table pick. What's going to be the best into that? Like, just as an example.
As an example,
it's not.
They're always the easiest, to pick on if it's terrain related.
Oh, yeah, like massively.
Yeah. No, cool. No, it's really interesting. Okay, so because I was wondering, I just remember the ETC one was something like, you put up one and then they had two. There was like one card went into 2 cards, and then you did that switching around, and then you ended up with like 2 left, and then they played each other.
And that would usually be what's referred to as like a flop, and sometimes that would whatever's left on the table would play into like. It gets more complicated the bigger it is. And I also realized that saying it, like trying to explain the format to someone that has no idea about it,
it's easier with the
probably
figures
just
or
like,
the cards. But I mean, it's important to understand that, what I guess this is my question would be, and quickly, have you run other just single old world events so far, or how many?
So I when you mentioned before, like, is this the first event, like jumping into teams? If anything, this is maybe a little soon as well. I was kind of just like, we haven't had a team event yet. People ask for it. Let's go. But I ran a 2,000 point event straight off the bat, like maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks after the game launched. Then a 1250 point, like the intent behind it being with some house rules thrown in just to make it a little bit more beginner friendly, and the intent of hey, you're new, come onto this first event. For what it's worth, I actually think the game scales. It's as someone that's only played properly 7th and 8th and dabbled in other editions for fun. I think the game scales a lot better than 7th and 8th in that you can play 1250 with some little house rule tweaks, and it still kind of feels like a game. We're trying to play 1,000 points to 1,200 points of 8th edition. Was like, I remember just crashing giant units into each other and be like, okay, cool, let's see. This isn't much of a game. Anyway.
Cool. Because what I was going to ask about that though is, how have you seen the meta? Like, obviously we've seen the dragon lists and stuff like that. So did you find the team event changed a bit of that? And you just said there was no Wood Elves, so I'm guessing. And if people don't understand teams, you can't double up on your armies, hey? So therefore, if you have 9, did you have 9 teams? Did you say that?
I just realized as well, we forgot to highlight that part of the point of the 4, like how many players there is on the team. No one is supposed to duplicate armies. Every army is supposed to be in on its own. So if someone's thinking, just take a team of 4 Warriors of Chaos players, so we're the 4 horsemen. No, like 1. And then there can be a beastman player, I guess, and demons and. I guess you didn't have the Wood Elves come. So, but like, were there some surprises, or was it refreshing to see some of the armies come out that maybe wouldn't have come out in singles? Like, if I'm being perfectly honest with you as well, is whilst the scene in Perth at the moment is disproportionately large to the actual population density, there will be people that are just rocking up. Like there was one Skaven player. I know he was rocking up with Skaven because Skaven's his favorite army. It wasn't I'm here to dominate with Skaven. He just wanted to rock up with Skaven. At one point early on in the event, I was going to play in it and decided not to just make sure that it would run smooth. I'll be playing in an event that I'm running in 2 weeks' time instead. But the army that I've been playing with for fun at the moment that I was going to use is an Empire army with no wizards in it. That sounds insane. It's just witch hunters and warrior priests and a war altar, and it's not particularly amazing. It is not. I'm not like fooling anyone with this is the new meta. It's not.
I was going to say,
it's really funny. it's really funny when most of the list has Magic Res 2 in it, and then the War Altars neg 2 to cast, and you hit someone with neg 4 to cast, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah,
like this is.
Yeah.
But it's I'm not here pretending like it's more of a narrative fun challenge list of like how far can I push this stupid idea, rather than this is going to define the meta. There were some players at the event taking things more seriously than others, in the sense that I know, again, most of them are close friends, so like I know how they think. The Troll Horde list in particular, run by Ben Zazacic, which you'll be able to see on Best Coast Pairings for anyone that wants to look at the lists. And Matthew Kelly's Protonian list, I know they're two people that take competitive gaming very, very seriously. Not in a bad way. They just are competitive gamers. If I tried to tell them to run the Empire list with no wizards, there is no way that they're ever doing that ever. Like they're just they're set in their ways in what they want to run being good, and therefore they took that. In terms of seeing other niche factions, I think it's slightly more freeing to a casual player in that regard, where they potentially feel like I'm just grabbing up my list of, because I took a little document of what the actual representation was, because it's always interesting. There was no Wood Elves, no High Elves, which is a massive High Elf fan. Is like they are my favorite army, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I find that just crazy. We're also, as you're probably all feeling, in a bit of a weird state where like accessibility to armies as well is still
it's a challenge. So if you haven't played before, it's pretty hard to get an army up. Is that still the case over there, or people 3D printing and buying? Or
it's a solid mix. And at the end of the day, like legacy factions were obviously in it. I've yet to see fantastic. I've yet to see a event that didn't allow legacy armies in it. I'm pretty sure you guys are probably in the same boat. Like, trying to explain that to people is just wild as well, where like I have people that have not paid attention to the game whatsoever, and they just go, "Oh, but like I can't get into Old World because I want to do vampire counts." I'm like, the community collectively said no to game structure. Like you absolutely can. They are one of the best armies in the game. Like just do them, please. I'm just grabbing the post that I have.
Because this probably isn't easy to see all the types.
So
ones,
just
but
as a quick
chaos,
rundown.
Yeah, go for
2
it.
Demons of Chaos, 2 Beasts of Chaos, 3 Warriors of Chaos, 3 Vampire Counts, 2 Dark Elves, 2 Tomb Kings, 2 Lizard Men, 1 Ogres, 3 Chaos Dwarves, 3 Dwarves, 2 Bretonians, 1 Skaven, 2 Empire, which both Empire armies, if you've seen any of the pictures, are like beautifully painted there. They're based, them and an Orcs and Goblins army with the top 3 of the painting, and they're just gorgeous. 0 High Elves, 0 Wood Elves, and the green wave of 7 Orcs and Goblins. Like almost every team had an
I did skim that. There was a few, like I said, the Troll Horde. There was a Nomadic War in there as well. So there's a bit of
it's so cool to see on the table the Nomadic War. And just like, so many friends.
Well, man, I hadn't gone through it like that, and I didn't see your post, before. But that seems so balanced apart from Orc and Goblins. But when you do factor in some of them are the armies of infamy, it's almost like every
army
a decent enough
split,
got a showing of 2 or 3, like that's it. It's kind of cool.
I've always found that no matter how good a tabletop game system is as well, even if you could have the most balanced, not that balanced is the best game inherently, that's a whole other conversation. But no matter how balanced your game is, you throw it into a team environment, there's a really, really good chance that it just becomes even more balanced and interesting. And it depends on what you regard as balance. But if your goal is meta diversity, a team environment will always make it. Even when it's just whether it be some casuals that feel like they can run something more casual, because at least, the thing that's absolutely going to kick me in the dick, I don't have to play. I can try and avoid it in the pairings where possible. Or seeing potentially some skew lists that are like the Troll Horde is a good army, but arguably in a team environment, it becomes quite strong again because you can really control what's paired into it. And I don't think anyone really took any hard counters to it, but then that's let's see if I'm going to ideally run an event. Like none. I'm going to run another team event of some description in probably 6 months. The goal will be to have one event kind of as the state team championship, make a really big deal about it, and then another one that's maybe in a slightly different format to not undermine the other. But again, people after this, I had 3 or 4 of the players tell me this is the most fun that they've ever had at an event, and they've been doing tabletop for 15 years, or longer in some cases, because they just never played a team event before. So I got to run more, apparently.
Well, I think that the post wherever I saw your original sort of shout out for that weekend's games was, what the hell? How come no one told me about this? We would have come over. There was like New South Wales and stuff.
If I can get people traveling over east, and if there's ever a position where we can fight, like what 40K currently has for an ATC, if anyone wants to reach out and put together like a committee group to run a statewide, basically state of origin for Old World, we could very easily do it. And
I'm assuming the right people will bubble back up on that. But that was one of my questions I was going to ask is, now that you've run that, I mean, you obviously run tournaments, you way more plugged in than us. We don't run in, well, Josh ran CanCon for 6th edition this year. But but in general, we were never involved in the running of or even the participation of that high level competitive scene in 8ths, where you were having the I don't even know what it was called. It wasn't ETC, but you'd end up being
there was a Masters,
chosen Masters, and then it went on to ETC. If you won a Masters event, you could get into that.
But there was never a team one, which is just so good for like actually getting a community behind it.
So I guess
because the single just hyper competitive player by themselves going over, people that are switched out of that just go whatever. But when it's your state going over, people are like, "Ooh, let's go!" WA for the win, Queensland, let's go, whatever it is.
I like that.
People get super excited.
That's quite different.
Totally. So I guess are you in conversations with any of that? Is there people to reach out to, or is okay? So
there are other people. There are other people running events in WA as well. So there's at least one club south of the river. There's at least one store a little bit further north of us running events. I know one of the good games is, because they're mainly TCG focused, does have a small tabletop space and has run some events as well. That's kind of it. We've definitely got the biggest space to run the biggest events, and we've run the most so far. And I'm very, very clued into wanting to build that. Not cutthroat competitive, but appropriate competitive community where you can come to an event, take pride in how you play, challenge yourself as a brain teaser, but it's not, I'm here to knock all the scoops and make sure everyone has a horrible time because my wins matter more than everyone else. And hopefully promote a player base, both in WA and hopefully across the country that kind of thrives off that as well.
And I think, we've talked about it heaps on our podcast that the tournament scene isn't that competitive. Like it is, don't get me wrong, but you don't when you're playing in it, or if you don't want to be that hyper competitive, there's so many other benefits just having the tournament or being in a tournament. I think tournaments, the fact that they're running all the time and they're sort of periodic means that the community can grow, whereas if you're just playing in your garage, it's so hard for growth to happen because it's almost organic,
It's the two players just playing the same thing over and over again into each other. So, and then that's also how people kind of fall out of that funnel or fall out of the hobby as well, where they get to a point where the diversity of what they're playing against isn't there, and they just go, "I'm bored." It's the gameplay, right? It's why tabletop games are so robust in that regard. If you then get into a community where it has to take something like your X-Wing 2.5s or a new 40K edition or fantasy going to Age of Sigmar to get people out of it if they're already in an entrenched community because they want to play with those people and play and meet new friends and meet new people and get a day of gaming in. Tournaments as a whole, and we would have seen this at teams as well, there was at least 3 or 4 people there that it was their first ever event, or maybe they've done one before way back in the day. But they're also using it as an opportunity to just get 3 or 4 games in a day to know how many games is in the day. And it's so difficult to organize that unless someone organizes it for you and you pay your ticket entry and you go to your event and you do it. When was the last time we got a group of mates together and said, we're going to play 3 games today? Definitely. You never do. You play 2 at best. You probably 1.
Usually,
if you have someone cracking the whip, so get you doing that, it's you'll get 3 games in a day. You'll hopefully meet some new people, If you play against your mates, so be it. Hopefully play against some different armies. That's always one. When I was that 15-year-old kid, like starting at Games Workshop playing my first events, it's because back then, like most of the stores that were so small, I was building a 2,000-point Vampire Counts army. And I was always just told by the staff, like, nah, you're not going to get a 2,000-point game of fantasy in like in a Games Workshop store. Like, just no one is either bringing an army in that regard, or like you just don't have the time in a day. So I just started attending events as a teenager just to be like, I want 3 games with my dragon. Like I've got a Lord slot that I can't use because of the previous editions. And like everyone else is just playing 1,000 points. And it's just a great way to jump into that community. And then teams and doubles. Doubles is the other one that kind of drags people into if like people get really nervous about, oh, I couldn't do it one. I'm not that competitive. And you're like, but could you play 3 games in a day? Because if you can play 3 games in a day, just go play 3 games in a day and have fun. Yeah. Do you like playing?
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. So what did you find with Andrew, Josh, have you got any specifics around the whole team tournament structure for Mitch? I didn't really prep those guys on the on the questions there, but
no, it's just good to hear, like, because being from WA originally and going back home, it didn't seem like it had a big fantasy following. So it is good that it seems like, obviously, especially like with the old world, it looks a lot more organized, I suppose, because I went over there trying to get a few makeup games and it didn't seem like there was like bits and pieces around. It also seems like the way you're explaining it now, it does have a bit more of a center to it. And I suppose your community and your store seems to be quite the
And again, as a passion project for myself, that's then like I'm driving that because at the end of the day, like I see it as an opportunity for the store. The store is what allows me to eat. That's very nice. I'd like to continue.
It's always good incentive.
But like
carrot or a stick, one of them.
We're a game store that has a full tabletop organized play space. For example, other than for things like members, we're not one of these warehouses that then just offers whatever discount it is to sell it at the lowest rate to just flog product to people. We've got massive overheads, and the entire store is a passion project in that regard. It is not about, if we wanted to just be a gaming warehouse, we would kick out all the tables. I wouldn't be speaking to you guys right now about running this event because we wouldn't have any space, and it would just be another random online warehouse that exists. They serve their purpose. I'm not having to go, but it's just nowhere near. I can't imagine going through and just putting Warhammer in a computer system compared to actually getting people involved in it and actually running events, and actually teaching people how to paint and actually talking to people about it every day is any less exciting than like just stock taking. Anyway, that's great. So WA as a whole it is a little bit of a weird one because there are a lot of very robust tabletop communities in the state. 40K is the biggest. We do still have quite a strong Age of Sigmar community in terms of, as I'm speaking right now, there's 20 Age of Sigmar players in the back of our store playing. Pretty excited about the new edition. They feel kind of like a completely different community nowadays, which is no, it's not really bad or good. It's just kind of is what it is. There's a little bit of crossover for people that are interested in both, but in the grand scheme of things, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's kind of the goal from day one was, why can't we just have both? Why do you have to get rid of fantasy for AOS? There's a whole argument to that, and I can, if I wanted to be really charitable to Games Workshop, I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's I guess if I wanted to be really charitable, we might not have the version of fantasy that we have right now that I fucking love. So I guess in the long run, it being a specialist game, a lot of one of my other favorite tabletop games is the Middle Earth Strategy Battle game, and it being a specialist game is perfect. That should not have a bajillion releases a year and a million FAQs and people involved in the community for that. The same with layout. I kind of feel a similar way about Old World, where I think that it can have a competitive circuit without it feeling like an esport. Like 40K nowadays feels like an esport. That's not inherently a bad thing. It's just different. And how
you're right.
Prioritize
I think that's going to
really
be a slight struggle with Old World, though, because I think its history has been fantasy, which sort of went through that competitive phase, whereas some of the other design, what's called strategy. What did you call their department now? It's not Forge World. What did you just call it? Was
the specialist game department?
Yeah, specialist game. Yeah, they've never really been that competitive. Like I guess Blood Bowl is. I guess you could argue that, but it's not like that ultra meta, like updating all the time. Whereas I feel like I don't know. I feel like fantasy could end up go either way in a way, because if
like
it gets more popular, it might push still more into that 40K AOS we want releases. Especially when
it's a bit of it's a bit of the day and age we live in as well, right? Like I understand that part of that is the level of connectivity that we have and the way the internet works. It's why you get net lists now. It's why the doom and gloom of like, I still have to explain to people like right now. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I personally don't think the dragon plague epidemic of, oh my God, that's how do I deal with the dragon is a problem really, like at all. We don't really see it as a problem in our events. I've yet to play a game into it where I then felt like I couldn't do anything whatsoever. It's either you have the tools to kill it or you run away from it and or have the tools to hold it up.
Try to make it waste its game.
The last game that I played into Dark Elves with a 560-ish point, I think that was roughly how much it was. I think it killed 220 points worth of models across the game. And I did not attempt to actually fight it once. Just avoid it. I know it's not as simple as that. Then it's also the onus to play with the dragon to make sure it's efficient. But it's not as simple as they take powerful thing busted. It's the level of lethality in the game. I think helps for that as well. Like mostly, we've all had that either negative play experience or heard about that negative play experience from either prior editions of fantasy to a degree, or 40K or Age of Sigmar, or like again, I don't want to shame other games, but I'll use as a 40K player. I'll use 40K as the example. If you don't play with the right amount of scenery, if you are playing someone with a massive skill gap, if you're playing someone that deploys badly, and the game is so lethal, less so intense, but it's still pretty damn lethal, you can just completely table someone in a turn or two. It's hard, but it's not impossible, and it feels awful. And it is so hard to do that with fantasy. Like you just move. At least you've got a couple turns to do stuff with your regiments.
Even your dragon will charge in half the time with its 5 attacks, and it's
on
top's got 4, and suddenly you've killed 3 things. And you're like, what?
But then the player on the receiving end of that isn't, the dragon hit my army and literally killed like 1,000 points in a turn. Yes, that obviously can happen. But it can happen, and does it actually happen all the time? And is this a problem with the game because it's happening all too much? There's the little changes. I don't think the game is inherently perfect, or anything any game is. I'd personally love a better incentive to take a level 2 wizard. Like if you actually ask me, like, what's the one thing you'd change? I'd love to be able to feel like I can take a level 2 wizard and it does something, but it's pretty questionable at the moment.
Something slightly wrong there, but it's not breaking the game. But you sound like it's making you just have to choose a certain thing. Yeah, I think the reason why I said sort of like I'm wondering which way fantasy will go in terms of that, hyper competitive, or we're happy with one release every 2 years, is it's skewed at the moment because there is only 4 releases, like armies out there official. Until it's all out and we know what's happening with legacy ones, which will take years if they do add them back in, I think there's always going to be that feeling that we have got more releases coming, and we're in that sort of
it's exciting, right?
Yeah, which is great. It's awesome. Yeah.
It's as much as I really want them to bloody just announce the next army. Like the fact that I'm really excited for whatever they announce next. I'm way more excited for whatever they announce next now for Old World than I ever was as an engaged 40K player. Like I was excited behind new 40K. I just be like, that's cool. But if it wasn't then the army that I wanted to do, I wasn't necessarily that excited. Yeah, where I'm excited for anything. They could my least favorite faction is probably ogres, so it's a bad example being a legacy faction. But let's pretend they weren't. They could announce them as the next thing, and I would just be like, awesome, cool. Like, I get to fight against something different. The introduction of like basically a lot of make your own units in that sense of like, what are you actually going to see in that arcane journal? It just feels fantastic. Being not afraid by the old school like chapter house days of Games Workshop, where it's like, we can't make that because it doesn't have a model. Fuck that, let's put Tomb Guard on chariots and let's see what happens. Whether it's good or not is a whole other thing, but it's interesting, right? I think that's the only thing that our community is feeling a little bit. Like, it is, as much as I said that it has been strong sales wise initially, and is still strong sales wise because we're monetizing. Like, we sell separate square bases in the store, like that I know a lot of other places aren't doing. So every time like I sell a pack of 10 square bases, that counts as an old world sale because it's basically for nothing else. And like it all just drips into the bucket compared to.
Are they Games Workshop ones, or are you selling like you guys print them, or like? Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay.
But they're mostly printed and made by ourselves. So again, like there's no proper margin if you just did the Games Workshop ones. But it's or because we sell circle bases as well. I kid you not, before this podcast, I had someone buy a pack of Bretonnian Knights on Foot for an AOS conversion. I'm like, yo, do you want to swap your square bases for circle bases? So I've got some square bases. To just go into a little tub of square bases. That is another interesting one as well. Like, I am factoring in that we're selling a lot of Age of Sigmar kits to Old World players. Like, we currently sell more Age of Sigmar to Old World players.
How do you track that, given that Games Workshop can't seem to do it?
Just through our point of sale. Like, as in,
so it's actually quite easy. Is it?
I'll literally document. It's
because you actually know your customer. Oh, that's interesting.
Because I can actually just ask the person what are you using this for.
Sneaky.
It's the best part about it, right? And I'll have to go through with like my assistant manager every now and then because he's a massive AOS fan, and be like, just so you know. I'm sorry, I'm sounding really negative. It's not aimed negatively. Both communities should exist. Both communities have a right to coexist. I don't dislike Age of Sigmar myself. I just am more invested in Old World.
Some good models.
Great models. Yeah.
There's some fantastic stuff, right? Like, again, Soulblight to Vampire Counts is the best example where someone comes in going, oh, I just can't do any armies because the models are all retro and old. I'm like, just do a Vampire Count army, dude. Like, the entire range looks stunning. Like, so good. Or again, there's a million print alternatives out there. There's a million of people selling old armies on buy and sell, but they can't. It's frustrating because the hurdle is very much, I think, a psychological hurdle than like it is a physical hurdle. Sorry, I shouldn't make it sound like it's not. But to a lot of people, if it's not that immediate, convenient thing. I get that. I'm doing Empire at the moment, and whenever I want to add something to my army, if it's something that I want the actual model for, and I can't find it then on eBay, or I can't find a mate that happens to have it, I'm just stuck. Shit. Like, I want to add a couple mortars to my army at the moment, and my only option is basically printing them or finding them secondhand. That's fine. I'll address what I want as the individual, like, rather than Games Workshop forcing me to, or one way or the other. But in terms of getting people in, I feel like in 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, it will just get better over time as you can turn around and go, hey, what faction do you actually want to play? Because they're all here. Whether that be a legacy faction and you're buying AOS models, whether that be every single battalion box for every army, every single arcane journal, every single support model. Like, we order in a lot of the direct order stuff to sell off the shelf as well. Whilst not a lot in the sense of I don't have 7 Green Knights on the shelf. I will try to have one of every single thing on the shelf.
Wow, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's really smart. Okay, cool.
It's the point of difference. Whilst the margin for a trade store is quite low on it, it's still the fact that if it's one of the item and only ever one of the item, you're not sinking that much into it. And whilst there's some things, like, I'm not ordering those Imperial Dwarves to sit on the shelf because they are incredibly niche. The Green Knight's a great example. I've ordered 3 Grudge Throwers, 3 Bolt Throwers, 3 Goblin Hewers just for the shelf. Like, they will sell. Like, there'll be someone out.
It's going back to your point, isn't it? It's growing that. It's making the barrier to entry lower for that person who walks in and wants the battalion box, because now you can sell that other thing. So
they can get their whole army. though I do really feel like it's a time thing. My personal one, I don't know if you guys again feel the same. As a lore fanatic, I just want a campaign book. I want like what's actually happening in the setting.
Yep.
Give me some more Black Library
nice.
Well, there's a rumor now about that whole thing. You know, the General's Compendium versus the what was the old 6th edition one? Was it called the General's Compendium?
Just General's Compendium.
Yeah. So the rumor going around is it is more like that than the General's Handbook in AOS land. So it's interesting if that is coming or not. So I don't know.
Well,
if
you compare it to the
Mitch, but
you compare it to the Middle Earth. I don't have any insider knowledge really anymore. Not that I had a lot when working for Games Workshop, but you hear a tidbit or two. But you look at the specialist games, so Heresy and Lord of the Rings in particular, even Legions Imperialis having those like in Legions Imperialis is just about to have that Talon campaign book. And I'm there going like, I want to see what these special characters that you're introducing, new or old, in the setting are like doing in the setting. And like, I just the little stuff like that.
And even novels, like we've only had one novel come out, you know, like
fantasy novel, like Black Library was the best Black Library.
Like, just re-released bloody books, you know, like
there's some fantastic 40k and Heresy books, but like the Nagash trilogy is awesome, the Sigmar trilogy is awesome. Like,
that's the one I want. I'm looking at one on eBay now. I'm like, do I want to spend that much on this, or are they got to bring it out?
And then more audios. I never read Gotrek and Felix like back in the day, and then I've listened to them on audio theme more than anything. They're almost all on Audible now. And they're narrated so well. And as like, if you want any motivation to do any fantasy, haven't read Gotrek and Felix, just do it. It's fun. Not every book is a masterpiece. Most are pretty close to, and even the very worst ones are just fun to. Like there's you really can't be angry like at any of those books. Like
they're great. The only thing I haven't done with them is progress them into AOS land. Like I've never gone into the Gotrek.
I've done the first one. It's actually fine as well. I don't have a problem with it. It's not.
Yeah, they're not bad.
It's just missing. It's just missing something without Felix.
It is.
Like and something missing. Like as great as Gotrek is as a character. We've just turned into a lore podcast. I love it. But I find, and it's personal taste, right? I find it's like seeing Gotrek through Felix's eyes is always the best part of that. Whereas you're seeing it in a very, very different light otherwise. And seeing a human with a bunch of dwarfs is always like Felix is like, I think it's Orc Slayer is the one where like Gotrek and his like mate in the past have this stupid feud. So and halfway through the book, you find out what the feud's about. And like, not really a spoiler because you know the entire time it's probably going to be something really stupid. And it's something incredibly stupid. And Felix just being like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, oh my God. The culture shock is just so good. And it never gets old despite like over that many books. Anyway.
Nah, look, I pulled out Troll Slayer the other day and read it, and I was like, I'll forget all the others out. They're in the box somewhere, but because it's just, want to get back into reading some of these fantasy novels, because, there's just so many out there, you know, so.
And that's something that we're kind of missing a little bit. Like the narrative in the core rulebook is quite stripped down. Like it's fine. It's nice having the 2 pages of Cathay and Kislev, which hopefully we see one day. That's another one as well. If we ever do actually see that, like some people say, we're definitely going to see that.
Imagine if they release them full plastic range. They won't be able to keep them on the. They'll need to build that full factory they're talking about just to print that.
Mirror it to Heresy at the moment. Like if you told me as someone very entrenched in Games Workshop, like 2-3 years ago, we'll see plastic Solar Auxiliary on the shelf and plastic Heresy Mechanicum on the shelf, I'd be like, no, we won't. Like that's insane. And yet they're here. Like,
and how good do they look? They look freak. I mean, I don't play Heresy really, but they look awesome. Yeah. So.
But if you, as much as it's not they do this in this, therefore they're going to do the same with another game. Like I'd be really surprised if there's not a level of, like I don't know how well Heresy sells globally, but I can't imagine Old World is that much far behind. Like it's good for us as a store. I've got a staff member that's as passionate about Heresy as I am for Old World. And he loves pushing it, and it's good, but it's not like Old World is outselling it. Old World is again. This is just one store, so always take it with a grain of salt. It's about 12 times higher than Age of Sigmar sales are by themselves for just one retail store. It's Heresy is probably about the same size, a little bit bigger than Age of Sigmar, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely regional because I know, like, at the same time, like, obviously, you know, I know the guys from Mountain Miniatures said that, you know, Heresy's dead around that area of, you know, Canada and Toronto and all that, wherever they are. But, you know, you go over here in Newcastle, Heresy's pretty big. You know, they run some decent-sized Heresy events and stuff. So it is always down to that catalyst and who's
It's the
running
community,
it. However, I still think when you look globally, there would be a trend, and I would not be surprised
it's Space Marines, right? Like,
yeah.
It's Games Workshop's license.
I think it can eclipse Heresy, I think, as a niche game at least. Yeah.
The example that I said with said staff member that's very passionate about it is like, because he's like kind of scratching his head, like, what do you mean you're actively getting new people into it like that? Like, he struggles to recruit people that aren't already entrenched. Like, it's hard. It's very hard to get someone that's never played a tabletop game into Heresy. Whilst it's not easy with Old World, it is easier. And I think part of that, it is that pitch of factions. Like fantasy, to give Age of Sigmar some credit, Age of Sigmar is kind of this now as well. But Games Workshop's fantasy games, period, have always had a broader scope of what you can actually
variance
do.
Between them.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that's always been hard because it was like, what is the poster boy? But when Space Marines are shoved down your throat, as much as that's kind of essential to Games Workshop's like survival, like they've doubled down with that, and they kind of need to keep doing that in some way or another. They do sell really well, no matter what.
Yeah.
There will be a demographic of people that will just see, that's just the Space Marine game. That's not my thing. I want to do something different. And they're so like it's as much as in some ways it's the archetypical fantasy setting. Like, how many people have you met that have played the Total War games and never actually played the tabletop that are now drenched in the lore from it? Like,
but like even people who don't play, like I've got our best sort of friends that we do everything with, like a husband and wife. They are not playing, you know, they're not gamers. They don't play any of this. But I was just joking with the husband the other day, just going, man, like I'd love to just set up a game for you and show you how much. Like we've talked about this on our pod, like how much effort goes into building and knowing the rules and playing the game. And like, I'd love a non-player to look at it. He's like, oh no, I'll do that. But I was thinking you could do it because you know what? He knows what an orc is. He knows what an elf, like, they don't even, because they have watched Lord of the Rings at one point. Yeah, it's like you sort of know. Like I know what a human looks like. Oh, I know a troll looking thing. Oh, dragon. Yeah, I know what that is. Like, so you don't have to, even if you're not into fantasy, it just can click a lot quicker than trying to learn, okay, what's this Space Marine thing and why is one black and one red and what does that mean?
And
like,
then I love the Horus Heresy as much as the next guy.
Oh, yeah, great story.
But the really like and this is why it's important, like levels of interest of like turbo Space Marine players and / like fans of whatever 40k faction it is that are taking it to another level. You're like, yeah, and you're why the new person gets like looks at it from the outside in and goes, no, I'm not. Too intense. Where it's, I guess Old World will always have that. I think an interesting one is the supposed complexity of the game as well, where it's not a easy game to inherently learn compared to some other tabletop games on the market. But I personally find that the mental load once you're actually playing is actually a lot lower. I can play 3 games of Old World at an event and feel, I won't say refreshed or relaxed. No one feels like that at the end of an event, but feel like a lot, like less drained than I would at the end of a 40k event. And I still enjoy going to 40k events and playing competitive 40k. It's just a different thing. But it's the way a lot of Games Workshop games that are kind of the beginner-friendly versions are done at the moment. They're very, very easy to learn those kind of basics, but you're kind of almost always checking those basics in some way or another.
Because they're all on the data cards and you don't know. And if you don't have that armor, you got to look at their war scroll to know what it does. Like it's all, there seems to be everything's a different rule. Like as in like it's all
that's huge.
Specific. So you're just like,
this slice cannon is different to this slice cannon is different to this slice cannon is different to this tank is different to that tank. Where when I comfortably know that every high off is toughness 3, you're like, sweet.
And even the magic system, I think now, after I've played it so much, well, I haven't played it that much, but I've played it a fair bit now, it is reminding me a little bit of like the Tombkins and 6, where it's like, you know, you've almost like, yes, you need to make decisions, but because you're not micromanaging the dice pools and all
the mini game.
It's once you know, okay, these are my hex ones, these are my whatever. it becomes quite quick. But when we first started, I think we were like, me and Andrew were like getting stuff mixed up and what card goes, like, when can we cast natural, that? But once you get it, like
you just work through it as well. Like I don't understand. There's not many people like this, but every now and then you see someone that immediately like hits the wall, the metaphorical wall, or like speed bump and goes, that's it. It's too complicated. I'm out. And I'm like, what? Sure, if you're not enjoying something, you're not enjoying something. But if you're doing that because you're like just confused with one or two things too many times, like you work through that. You ask people. You have your community around you. Like it's I'm not currently a master of the old world as it is. Like I'm doing TO checks, going through the rulebook for people, trying to show where rules are written and how something's done. And I'm dead sure that not every calling I've made has been exactly right. But it's also kind of just helping people along that so that it's not just, I don't know how this works. I'm not going to bother checking the FAQ. I'm not going to bother reading the rulebook. We'll just 4-up it. And you're like, well, no, like let's actually learn the game to a acceptable level together so that when we're playing, it's not.
And once it comes in again, you know what to do then as well.
Yeah.
And then you can, and then it's the zombie virus. You can then actually show someone else how it's supposed to do. And all of a sudden, your entire community is actually not playing for keeps and not playing for like, I got to knob stoops, but they're playing to a level where, they could actually really comfortably show someone else how to. Depending on the person, not everyone's actually the best at teaching, but if they've got the right kind of temperament for it, and it's not just a big ego trip, like you have other people that will get other friends into it because all of a sudden they're not scared by the rules anymore. So they're happy to get anyone that they want into it as well. I feel like I've jumped around like a Tarantino.
That was a good one. To be honest, one of the questions I had to sort of finish up, which you've sort of answered, just like what can you see changing or needs changing? I think you've sort of answered it. We don't need to delve into the tournament side. It's just I think it's
more staff. More staff, please. Get more people into it. What would you guys change if you have or haven't spoken about that on the podcast already? Like whether it be a rule, whether it be a I think Games Workshop's doing.
Well, to be honest, we're going to do a video maybe this week talking about because I've seen it pop up around YouTube now about like Warhammer Old World 6 months in. So I might not answer that one yet because actually I might use some of that in that video. But I don't know if Josh and Andrew thought about anything, but I don't know. I wouldn't change too much at the moment.
I'd change the rule book to make sure that everything should be in an easy, accessible area.
Oh, the layout's horrible. But I actually think it's relatively well written for Games Workshop standards for the most part. But its layout is like for its tournament organizer, like fuck me, like it's so frustrating when you're like, I know the answer to this. I can't remember where it is in the rulebook. I'm going to go through 4 sections.
It's a movement thing, so I won't look there. I'll look somewhere else because surely
I'll look in special rules because surely it's in there somehow.
That's pretty funny.
Did you have one, Josh?
Not really.
Josh has only you played like 5 games or something, have you, Josh? Like not a heap.
I've played 4 games and 3 of them were at a tournament.
I just think overall, I'm just keeping an open mind still until we see the whole thing and where it's going versus say anything's a particular problem.
If there was one particular rule that I wanted to change, it's being able to reform on a fallback in good order, whereas you can't in good ground. I feel like that is one particular one that's like could be altered.
It can be a little bit of a feels bad if you feel like you're like kind of stuck. Like very fair enough. I think it'll be very interesting to see where it's taken next, because again, there's a lot of that early talk from retailers and from people in the community of, oh my god, it's exceeded all expectations, and they're going to be bringing the legacy factions back in. It's just going to be a while, and all this stuff, and it's just waiting for it to happen.
I mean, and if the investor reports are anything to go by, they are actually obviously, did well, and it's, there wasn't much in that report. But the other thing that I did note and is the CEO, whoever writes the report, just saying like, you guys, like the investors have to give us patience if our quarters are down because we go off an annual cycle and it's set in stone. Like, and our current plan right now is they're trying to get their 40K. It keeps growing, and that's their goal by May 2025 to get their 40K right up there. They have some rapid growth.
Make it a household name is
and
their,
that's their plan. So even if Old World is this big change of project, it's not happening right now. Do you know what I mean? Because that's, by the sound of it,
you got to be real.
If I learn
that quick.
If I learned anything working for them, it is like I was going to say compared to working in a game store compared to it. It's not even. It's on a larger scale. Again, it is the cruise liner like shifting ports. Like it takes forever. And there's definitely some. I always get the impression sometimes that there's some people in the company, not many, but a handful at least, that are very much hired to move one thing to one other place, and that's all their job role is required to do. And it's like these little links in the chain where you're like, if you were actually just smaller, you could work faster. But if you were smaller, maybe we would get less stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's a very when you look at their share price versus the rest of the FTSE, they're the biggest, FTSE company like on the stock is it's crazy.
It's that love-hate relationship where, like, at the end of the day, you can criticize them all you want. All there's people that are like, I want Games Workshop to fail. No, I want Games Workshop to do better. At the end of the day, we saw what happened with no official version of Fantasy. And whilst there were plenty of regions globally that had their alternative, like rank and flank games that were going pretty well, it is so much harder to push something without the corporate brand over it. Like it's just not the same in terms of getting.
Unless they've got a massively strong IP, like I could argue that, I don't know, maybe if Lord of the Rings came from a different company or even Star Wars. But look, even that, Star Wars, their systems are not, they're popular in niches, but they're not everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's not the same. We've got a good Star Wars Legion scene. I know a lot of the East Coast actually has a pretty strong Star Wars Legion scene as well, but it's not like ETC, WTC level. Like you see Adepticon every year is probably a really good metric for it, as much as that is only one metric, and you can see the size of communities based off that. Again, that's not always going to represent every individual community. As I said at the beginning of the podcast, like passion from one individual can go disproportionately so far. Like you can just have one person push something to the point of, oh my God, how does this area have this scene and my area doesn't have it? But all it takes is one person to actually push it. Helps when you're employed by it. But the motivation's always there, right? Like you're like,
the annoying thing there is it's just not a scalable or repeatable business model then, because it is down to the actual person what they want to do, and that's probably why Games Workshop's gone. Look, that's just we can't operate that. What we can operate is teach Johnny how to paint a Space Marine and sell him that and pump it out, which is fine. Like that's how. It's cool. That's how we breed more Johnnies, and then we'll turn them into Warhammer players.
Exactly.
Real Warhammer players.
Then otherwise they're just never going to get into it. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about Warhammer like model trains are already. The owner of the store is really into model trains and like talks to a lot of the older guys in that community. And half of them have kind of realized it, and the other half are still like head in the sand. But like that is a whole separate community. There's like very little to no recruitment. We
either started there like me and Josh did, and then you go to wargaming. But at some point, if Warhammer doesn't stay around, we're just going to end up back at trains. So, and
that's fine. Like it's a different hobby, right? But if you don't have the new generation getting into it, it just will disappear. In 20,
my marriage can survive Warhammer. It can't survive me being a train person.
It's more space, right? Like it's crazily. It's like it's so much more. When people are like Warhammer's expensive, I'm like, man, like sure it is. But there are so many more expensive ways.
You can't line up your trains and roll dice, You can't.
Yeah. Play a game.
Or can you?
But yeah.
Hey, I don't know. Do you guys got anything else for Mitch? Otherwise, I might let him go and get back to his dinner, since we've held him for a little bit there.
No, that's great. It's great having you on.
Cool. Thanks so much, Mitch. Hey, do you want to give anything a quick shout out before you let you go, or
I mentioned it at the beginning, but the store that I manage is Beyond Odyssey Games and Hobbies. It's WA's. If you're from Western Australia, if you're not from Western Australia and you're in WA for any reason, and haven't heard about us, it's WA's largest tabletop and trading card gaming hall and store. We're on Facebook or on Instagram. We've got a website, though it's kind of used a little sporadically. Come check it out. It's well worth just even popping your head in and having a look. And then obviously, if you're actually in the area, it's, if I do say so myself, the best place to play tabletop games in WA.
Sounds like
a little bit biased,
but
I hope the photos do it justice in that regard.
Yeah, I'll put them up too. Yeah, sorry, I didn't put them on this one. But,
the next event that we've got going on is thank you. It's 2,000 points in 2 weeks. The event's called the Book of Grudges, which timing-wise was just perfect, being the week after Dwarves. But the entire, if anyone wants to talk about the idea of the event, if they want to run something similar, because it was just an idea that kind of came to me. The entire format for a casual event was everyone submits their lists. There's going to be hopefully about 24 players. I reckon it might be 18 at its quietest, because we are just going off the back of a 36-player event. But everyone submits their lists. Everyone has their names removed from their lists. Everyone votes for what they think is the most casual, fun narrative. Oh my God, he's taking that unit. I've never seen that unit before. That's cool. To the most sweaty, oh, this guy's just taken this list off Reddit and is trying to make people have a horrible time. And you'll get an additional score to your generalship score based on how high you are in the poll. And then to make it a little bit more, again, fun narrative times without it being overly campaign driven, depending where you land on the poll or the tally, your general will get a certain buff. So, for example, the general that is lowest ranked gets eternal hatred against everyone because he's a bitter and spiteful, everyone hated him and put him at the bottom of the poll, but everyone also gets eternal hatred against him because everyone hates him. The general at the highest is the people's champion, and I've got a little mechanic where he's basically harder to hit in combat because who would want to strike down the most loved, the guy with the most riz in the room, but then the general that's second gets hatred the general that's first. And to make sure that they play the pairings, the random pairings that are round one are the most casualist plays the second most, the third most plays the fourth most, the fifth most plays the sixth. And because the names are removed from the lists, it's it's a fair bit of work thrown into this on top of it. It's why I've capped it at 24 players, despite us having the ability to do more, just because I really don't want to be chasing up 40 people.
A lot of overheads. Yeah.
But have you done your vote? Oh, you haven't. Okay, please do it. But 24 sounds like a good number where it's a big enough crowd. You get a fair bit of variety, see what happens. Not every event that I run is like that, but the goal is to just do some different stuff. The event, I actually really want to run a 2,500 point event in probably September or October, just to kind of mix things up a little bit. I'm seeing a lot of lists that potentially, mainly in WA, that have, and even at the teams event, you'll see it, lists that have about 800 to 1,000 points potentially in one unit sometimes. And I want to not necessarily disincentivize that, but add to it where you're hey, take some more stuff as well, so your army isn't just a Death Star and another 800 points.
Yeah.
Some armies do it better than others, so it just depends on factions. No one's really complained about that or had a horrible time about it, but it's just different stuff that's coming up.
Yeah.
And there'll be another team event, bare minimum, within 11 to 12 months from now. That's an annual thing. You guys probably seen the photos of the trophies of the Galmaraz STL.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a State Masters for WA where there'll be a meter long version of one of them. So it's a big hefty, it's got a wooden dowel through it so you can actually swing it around.
Cool.
It's just so satisfying to swing around. And that'll probably be October, November as a 2-day 2,000 point. Again, not cutthroat competitive, but if you come and go, oh, someone's army was strong, I didn't that wasn't good. You're well, it's the Masters event. People are fighting for the Galmaraz. But still do sportsmanship awards and painting awards. And, celebrate the entire hobby.
That's really exciting. I'll make sure we whack some of those events up as they get closer to. Definitely that Book of Grudges one. I'll put them on our tournament list here for people to look at. But cool, Mitch. Well, we'll let you go have your. I hope you got someone brought you good food there because I saw them drop it off. So hopefully you got something and enjoy the rest of your week, mate. Thanks so much for coming on Old World Fanatics, man. That's been really good.
Thanks for having me. And if
hopefully we get to play
if you guys just want to chat Old World community, put together larger scale events and again, if anyone wants to do an ATC equivalent for Old World, just literally send me a message.
Absolutely, mate. We'll probably get you back on at some point. Cool, mate. We'll talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
Guys.
Well, guys, anyway, that was our chat with Mitch Byrne from Odyssey Games. That was pretty interesting. He seems like a very charismatic guy, and I would love to have him around
passionate,
in our
passionate.
cycle. Yeah, like our not that our. I think it's definitely growing around here. Obviously, I think Castle Salt's now at what did I say? It was 50, 51.
Was it? Yeah,
52,
nice.
I don't know. So it's getting bigger, and obviously all the tournaments are kicking off. But yeah, like I've heard like some people start talking about team tournaments. It's just really interesting to see someone so early on just smash one out. And I had no idea the WA scene was
quite a large
that
one
easy to get that many people. Yeah,
I know. I really haven't heard much about the WA scene at all. So yeah, I didn't think there was much outside the Eastern Seaboard. So that's very eye opening.
Yeah, hopefully they all get together. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm the child in all this because like all the adults organised all these big tournaments and master events because we weren't playing in them. We're not competitive like those guys are. And I'm just making the assumption that they're just going to come back out of the woodworks and organise it again, like the actor Khans and all those dudes and stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's a different generation that'll get all that up and running and have the Australian state championships and stuff. It'd be pretty cool. It'll come. So it's just going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Having it as a team tournament, such an interesting idea though.
I love it. Yeah.
State nationals, but as a team.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It's all over, because 40K do it all the time. It'd be so cool to have that up and running again. But I just like team tournaments in general. I like the single ones too, but it's so fun to have a team.
I had no idea Biv had a team tournament thing once.
Maybe it wasn't Biv. Maybe I'm getting confused. I can't remember. I definitely.
I do remember there was a team one. Yeah, there was a Newcastle team one.
And I think it was Biv. Something tells me it was Biv because they were practicing for the ETC.
Yeah, good chance of it.
And so they did. There was an ETC team there. One of
them. Is that for ninth age?
Could have been. Yeah, no, it would have been. It would have been ninth age, maybe. Maybe? Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember.
The end of 8th and the start of 9th, there was that very active ETC group within sort of Sydney, Newcastle.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, so I had a taste of it then, but it's just cool because I felt like the matchups are cool. I love how it skews the meta a bit more. Not in a bad way. It's a really good way, like healthy way almost, But it also does allow you to be a bit crazy too if you don't have to deal with, or less chance you have to deal with a certain thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess.
So.
It does weirdly make it feel like a sport more, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Matchups and tactics in that regard, rather than just the narrative of two armies suddenly colliding.
Two random. Yeah,
it'll come. And like I said, I'm pretty sure Rob. I think I said it on there. I'm pretty sure I heard Squarebase is running one. There's been a few popping up, so it'd be interesting to see. How quick Australia starts getting into it as more of these single ones sort of turn up and go well. More players come. The last, just near the end there, Mitch was saying about like what we thought of the old world and stuff. And I thought that was a good video. Plus it's timely because I've seen at least 2 YouTube channels do like, it's 6 months, basically on August 10. So when we go play Castle Salt next week, that's 6 months since Australia had old world. So
Australia.
So I reckon it's a cool time. Maybe this week, next week, we'll try to get a video out on what we think the state of the game is, either here and what's the good and bad, and what we feel about it. I think that'd be a pretty cool topic as well. Yeah. So listeners, we'd love to hear, I guess, comments. What do you guys? What do you think 6 months in? Are you loving it more than you thought? Are you not liking it? I'd love to know as well, and maybe we can throw another YouTube video out on it. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Outside of that, guys, do you have anything else to cover, or we'll let the listeners get back to their day?
No, well, there's plenty of content coming out. Yeah, coming up.
We're going to go through Castle too, so it's going to be big. We've got a list, so we'll start churning through them soon.
Big weeks ahead.
It is. Yep. So, thanks for listening to another Old World Fanatics episode. If you enjoy our weekly ramblings, remember to give us a 5-star review on your podcast software of choice, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like, subscribe buttons, click the bell to be notified of our latest videos, and once again, jump over to patreon.com/oldworldfanatics if you feel like supporting the show in a slightly deeper way. Otherwise, you can always reach us out on those socials or hit us up on our email at oldworldfanatics@gmail.com. But until next time and next episode next week, thanks for listening to another episode of Old World Fanatics. Cheers, guys.